Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today we are going to be talking about the concept of noticing. It's something that we talk about in the program quite a bit. So I wanted to bring it to the podcast just to open it up to everybody that's listening. Um, I guess the first part of noticing is like, what does it even mean to notice? Like, what does it mean to you, Danny?
Yeah. So, we did Google the definition just so we can have a very clear definition. It's the fact of observing or paying attention to something. But we take it to
Hmm.
another level of like really noticing. We love to do like a before and after notice because these movements are so powerful that you
Hmm.
really do have a very distinct before I do my brain work, how I feel, and then after I do my brain work or reconnect, how
Right.
do I feel? And so, what we're asking for you to sort of start tuning into that in all things that you do, not to the obsessive point where then you're like hyper focused on, oh my gosh, I just did this, da, da, da," but to the
Right.
just fact of just making it a practice of just how do
Yeah.
I feel when I do this? And the goal is to, as you go through our program, is to notice how much you're noticing can become unattached to an emotional charge. And you can just start to
Totally.
see things almost like a zoomed out from like someone's
Perspective.
videoing it. Yeah. And you're watching it back and you're not getting involved in the drama triangle that we've talked about before. You're really able to see
Hmm.
what is the true context of the situation. That's
Well,
so
yeah, but also, and yeah, it's very hard to do. But I think that, first of all, of course, with brain reorganization, it becomes a lot easier.
Mhm.
And noticing is just something that's so subtle that we often don't do it. Like we often just
Right.
get caught up in our patterns, in our day-to-day
Mhm.
lives, in our routines, in our behaviors, in our relationships, and all this stuff is because of neuroplasticity, right? It's because you're set in your ways. Your brain is like figured out the way to do what you do, to operate the way that you operate. And so noticing becomes secondary,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Sometimes people like if you like go, I don't know, to the doctor, for example, and they say, so how have you been feeling lately? And sometimes you're like, I don't really know. I haven't
Yeah.
even noticed, right? I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
going through the motions and I'm not really like even thinking about how I'm feeling and noticing stuff. And so that's why it's so important because that's where growth comes in. It's all the little tiny things that you're noticing that you're going to be able to pay attention to and really see what is changing, what difference you're feeling, whether it's with our program or with something else, or just in general in life, noticing what goes on in your day-to-day life with your relationships and your job and all that stuff, right? It really is an important part of life that we don't give a lot of credit to, I think.
100%. I'm so glad you said that because so many times our members who do our program, they start going, "Oh, I don't know if I've really felt any big changes." And then we start talking about
Yes.
their day and they're like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, I stopped doing that." And, "Oh, yeah, I didn't do that anymore." And that's why we're asking you to tune into the noticing because when you organize your brain, it's just subtle things that slowly, and we always say that's the real you. And I tell this to people all the
Yes.
time. When you go and organize your brain, you start to think or you experience a shift so much and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, that was never actually my personality, that was just how my
Hmm.
brain was wired. So I actually noticed that, oh, my rage is gone. I don't have like that
Hmm.
feeling to rage anymore. And so
Yeah.
we're like,
Well, I think also that it's hard to notice things
mhm,
when you're stuck in that. Like it's hard to even notice the difficulties that you're having. It's hard to even notice that you have rage sometimes,
exactly,
right? And that's
yeah,
another thing where people
until
are
it's
like,
gone.
"Oh, that's so cool what you do. I'm sure you're," until it's gone, exactly. And
Yeah.
so sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, that's so cool what you do. I'm sure you're helping a lot of people that need it." And you're like, "Well, maybe you're one of those people," but you don't want to say that, right? And then they don't even know, right? A lot of us don't even know. I did not know that I was such a, you know
Mhm.
what,
Yeah,
when I was before my brain reorganization. I did not,
right.
I genuinely did not realize how aggressive I was, how mean I was, how angry I was all the time, how reactive I was, how shut down I was. I promise you, I had no idea. And then the coolest thing is with these profiles, with these brain profiles, is that other people will start to notice. And that's the biggest thing that kicked in for me. And I think that kicks in for so many of our members. They'll be like, oh, my husband said this. My mom said this. My son or my daughter noticed this about me. And that's the coolest part when other people start to see it in you. And, we do say our program is for everybody. Like that's why we do say it, right? Like
Yeah.
if you have a brain, this is for you because most of us are walking around with some sort of compensations and some sort of disorganization in our lives. We just don't know because we're so golly darn used to it. And
Right.
so that's where it comes to. noticing that stuff and seeing, okay, how could this help me? Or how could I start to feel better? Right. And that's where we have the also noticing kind of like how you approach new things. So we like to talk about like the different profiles when they start the program, and they're like the person who's going to do everything to a T. They're the rule follower. They're going to do everything perfect, exactly the way that we have it in the program. They're watching all the videos, doing all the things. And then sometimes they're the people who one day they miss a minute of creeping, right? Or they miss one of the videos, or they don't come to one of the Cortex chats and they're like, ah, I totally messed up. I can't do this, right? That's a perfectionist tendencies a lot of
Right.
us have. And
Hmm.
so that's where we're like, okay, what are you noticing about yourself, right? What are you noticing about your brain, the way you're even approaching this program? Right? Why do you have to do everything 100% to perfection? We say at least 27,000 times in the program, make it work for you. Put your own little spice on it. Put your own little spin to the way that you're doing the program, the way you're implementing it in your day-to-day life, right? And so, yeah.
So and think about this though, like because and we just had an amazing Cortex chat yesterday, which is a part
Yeah.
of our program where we offer support to all of our members twice a month. And in that we had a little more Q&A, and one of our members was just saying something, and she kept saying the same thing. And then we're like, "Hey, you notice that you keep saying this?" And she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right. I
Whoa.
can't believe I just had that running through me." And she's like, "I hope everyone could do this work before they're my age." And she was older. And that just goes to show that like so much of what you're doing, like, are you the person who has to follow it to a T? Well, how are you like in school? Were you the person who was
Mhm.
criticized? Were you constantly being called out for things? Did you always need to seek approval? So this is where our program
Right.
really has to highlight first getting your brain reorganized, get you out of that survival state, get you regulated. So then you can start looking at the subconscious beliefs of why are you the person who has to follow it to a T? Ask
Mhm.
us so many questions of my hands were open, but I've been doing it that way for a whole week. Is that bad? Do I start over?
Mhm.
And so then you can start to unpack like why is it that my subconscious is making me go there? And we are
Exactly.
never what we love doing more than anything is talking about this. So when we have our members send us emails, we love to send you back
A
an email.
hundred
Like, "Hey,
percent.
let's talk about this. Let's do this." Or the Cortex chats are such a great place for everyone just to realize, like, oh, I'm not alone in being that
Mhm.
person. Or I'm not alone in being like, I have been following you guys for so long. I bought the program. Why can I not start it yet? Like,
Right. That's another profile for
what
sure. Yeah.
what's going on? Why am I stuck? And
Yeah.
we just go, it's because your nervous system isn't just quite ready yet. And you
Yeah.
have to have enough. We always tell people do this when you're ready. Because if you're
Yeah.
fighting that internal conflict of I'm not ready yet and you're trying to push yourself through, then it's just going to make it's counterproductive. It's
Mhm.
also just going to add more stress to your life because then you're like, oh, now I'm failing again. And then you fall back into that subconscious program of, see, I knew I was never enough. And it's that self-fulfilling
Exactly.
prophecy.
Totally.
So there's also, then there's so many different profiles that we get to experience when they come into our program. And it's such a catch 22 because you do need to have some system of organization in order to be successful at the program. And that's why
Right.
Paloma and I have built in so much support. Like
Yeah.
we have a WhatsApp group, we have the Facebook group, we have email support, and we have the Cortex chats. Like you have access to us if you want it. So we
Mhm.
always say that once you're ready, you'll start to use all that. And then you start to jump into the group and ask for help. And so much of our program requires that you do find the space and time to put it together and make it work.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're going to share some ideas with you. So if you are an ITC member, this is probably a good time for you to do some noticing. Are you
Yeah.
feeling like, you know what? Like I really want to do it, but then I keep going like I don't have time or I don't have the space.
Mhm.
And by
Right.
space, like you can get so creative. So let's share some of the ideas on just the space of where can you do your brain work? Because so many people think I have to have this beautiful home gym in order for it to work. And we're like, no, you can get so creative. So some of the things we've heard of in the
Totally.
past, I'm gonna
Well,
rattle.
lots of people will do what you did in your room there is getting panel boards, like just going to Home Depot or whatever and buying some panel boards if you don't have that kind of slick flooring in your house, and you just put them up against the wall, put them down where you're going to creep, put them back up or put them away in the garage, whatever, right? And sometimes people will like find like a little kind of like a little space under their table and like around the hall or wherever they can they can get it done in the kitchen sometimes when people will do it. Or, if they have some slick flooring in like the office where they work, right? For example, like where I have this co-working, I have this space that's often open and empty. And I'm like, hey, can I go do some brain work there? And that's where I do my sessions too, like really making it work and remembering that it's going to work if you make it work. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
you're the one that has to decide, I want to do this. Like this is
Yeah.
gonna be the thing that I do. Maybe you have to go to a friend's house for 3 months, right? And just do it every day at their house. Maybe you can't do it every single day, but you say 4 times a week, I'm going to this place to do it. At the gym, lots of people will do that at the gym, like before or after like a yoga class. They'll just go into the studio really quick, do 5 minutes of creeping, and then go outside and do the rest of the movements, right?
Right.
So it's all about how you're gonna be able to make it work. I think the biggest thing is setting your intention. We talk about this in the program as well. Setting your intention is huge. It's going to up your brain to do the thing that you're telling it to do. And it's been scientifically proven. We have a study linked in the program as well about how setting your intention and visualizing what you want to happen helps your brain understand it, because our brains are really smart, but they're also not that smart sometimes, right? Sometimes just telling your brain something or even imagining it, the brain doesn't always know what's real and what's just an imagined thing, right? That's why we can send ourselves down this spiral of anxiety and stress and whatever if we start to imagine, oh no, what would happen if this thing happened? Nothing's happening. You're sitting in your room or in your bed about to go to sleep at night, and you start to ruminate on all these things that
Mm.
might possibly one day happen if you were, to lose all of your money, or if you were to be in a plane and there was a lot of turbulence or whatever it is, and you put your brain and your body into that fight or flight mode, right? And so you can do the same thing by imagining amazing positive things that you're going to do in your next day. You're prepping your brain to say, oh, that can happen. I've
Yeah.
seen it in my mind's eye, so I know that can happen. And that's where you're activating the reticular activating system, which is a part of the brain that goes through the brainstem that literally tells the brain what to focus on in the moment. So that's where setting your intention is so, so, so important. We recommend doing it the night before. And this goes honestly for any new habit that you're trying to implement in your life, right? The night before, setting your intention, saying, I am going to do my brain work in the morning, right before I have my coffee and right after I brush my teeth and wash my face. That's it. That's all you have to do. And that's little by little. It might not work like magic the very first day, but little by little, if you start to give your brain that heads up that, hey, this is something that's going to happen, it might be a little different tomorrow, then you're going to see that resistance and that kind of like doubt about, how am I going to get this done? Oh, I don't know. This is a little weird. Maybe I'll start tomorrow. That's going to start to go away.
Oh, 100%. And I know for me, when I finally dedicated a space that I said, this is where I'm going to do it. This is, and so once I created the space, and there's like no excuse to not do it now. And we get it. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you have dogs or you've got a high traffic area, like you are going to need to add in some extra steps in order to have like a clean floor. Cause once you get down on the floor, you're like, wow, this is really dirty down here.
It's
And
so
it changes.
dirty. Yeah,
It's crazy
it's
how
very true.
different it looks when you get down there. And so you just need to have a Swifter on hand and make sure that that's a part of your routine. So you're going to say,
That's correct.
okay, I need to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that I Swifter my space. It takes me 5 minutes before. And it's just a lot of like talking yourself through the process.
And setting yourself up for success. I mean, you have to also set up your knee pads, your creeping vest, if that's what you're going to use, or your workout clothes, if that's, if you're going to use workout clothes. Most people will decide to do that. Put that all in a bag right next to where your Swiffer is. So when you're going to do the brain work, you're all ready to do it, right? These are all just tiny, tiny, tiny little things that are going to help you set you up for that moment of hesitation where you're about to go. Either way, you can go the brain work way, you can go the avoidance way. It'll just make it that much easier to do the brain work.
And this is the same thing for when you're working with kids. Like you already know all of your kids' excuses of why they're not
Hmm.
going to do something. And I will tell you that I have 2 kids. And when my demeanor is, I'm focusing on mom, just me today, then I let them off the hook and it's an energetic thing. And if I have the demeanor of my kids and I need to get this done, then it totally shifts everything. So, what
Of
works for
course.
me at my home with 2 kids is we wake up and we'll eat something and then we go straight to our brain workspace. And we've already talked about it the night ahead. We talk about why we're doing our brain work almost to the incessant point because I want my kids to understand the why behind it so much that they
Hmm.
don't need the motivators. They internally understand that when I take care of my nervous system, I feel better, I do better in life, and then I can repair quicker. And that's so
Exactly.
important because we have those conversations all the time. My kids come home from school, they tell me what everybody does, and then we talk about it. Like, okay, how did it make you feel? What do you want to have happen? And then we turn that into reconnect. So we just have a very open dialogue constantly running. But
Mm-hmm.
when I shifted my mindset to we must do this to have a better day, it was something that then made it happen. And it just took me
Of course.
deciding. It's like you have to get enough of a rock bottom to realize like you need out. And like I know I've had this
Totally.
conversation before where I'm like, "Oh, you know what? Like that's a good lesson for you. It can't get any worse. It's not going to get any harder." And then their life gets harder, and then it gets harder. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, "I wonder how much harder it has to get for that person until they're like, "Okay, I need out of this." And so if you're listening to this
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like you feel like you've hit that rock bottom and you're like, "I need out," but then I feel like when I look at the program, I don't have the time, I don't have the space. Those are just your subconscious programs letting you know that, yeah, you're right. You've already done so much. You're not enough. You're not worth it. And that's what our program is going to address is helping you have that
Mm-hmm.
self-worth. But first, we have to get you to reorganize your brain. So all we're asking you to do right now is figure out the space. And it can be so creative. Go to the yoga studio, go to a gym, make it happen at home. I've heard of clients buying giant pieces of cardboard, putting it down in the grass in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
The panel boards are great options. If there's a will, there's a way. So if you're hung up on the space, reach
Exactly.
out to us at hello at in the cortex and we will help you with whatever you have got going on and we'll make it work. We've heard of some really cool stuff over the years. The second piece is the time. And
Totally.
everybody, especially if you're a mom in today's busy world with small kids that depend so much on you, I could easily say I don't have the time. And there are times where I literally am like, Paloma, I
Mm-hmm.
did not have a moment to breathe because I'm also a human that needs to
Second.
go to bed, right? And
Yeah.
but then I also will go, okay, but wait, let me go restructure my day. What am
Mm-hmm.
I prioritizing? And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I was prioritizing the needs of everybody else because I'm a mom. And sometimes this kid needs something from me. And I have two teenage stepdaughters who often come and do an emotional dump on me and they just want to share all the things in their life. And I sometimes have to put up a boundary that goes, no, I can't take that on right now because I haven't taken care of you.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big part of our program for parents is that you take care of yourself first. You put the oxygen mask on, you
Mm-hmm.
prioritize yourself, and that shows your kids how to take care of yourselves because most of us didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up with parents who ever
Yeah.
prioritized themselves. And by
At
the
all, me
time
neither.
they went to prioritize themselves, it was a fit of rage and a complete losing your mind, right? Before they were like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
wait,
Totally.
I probably needed to take care of myself first. So I didn't get to that space. And I will tell you,
Totally.
I have put in brain work for a lot. Now I just know Paloma knows that like my container needs constant love of being able to constantly expand my container of being able to handle the things coming at me. I can't skip a day of brain work. And I mean, I can skip a
Mm-hmm.
couple days. I just like the way I feel. I just
It's
like
just
the
better
way
not to.
yeah, and so I've been doing it now so consistently, and my 5-year-old daughter had a pretty epic moment last night, and I was just like, "I am so grateful I have a regulated nervous system right now because she's not triggering me." Like, it did get to the point where we all got emotional because it was just like, "Wow, this is really hard when someone's losing their mind."
Yeah.
But I didn't scream at her and yell at her and tell her to stop feeling and stop whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I held space for her. I also had a strong demeanor that was like, "You can't act like this," but I also was compassionate. So it was like this
Of course.
amazing moment, but I could have never done that before brain work. I would have literally been
Totally.
like, you're too much for me. I can't do this. So the whole point of this is creating the priority of brain work. And so the
Totally.
morning for me is my absolute must. I have to get it done in the morning or else it's not going to happen in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Alma's exactly opposite of me. She likes to do
Yeah,
it
I
in the
prefer afternoon because I have more energy in afternoon anyway, and mornings already are like tough for me. So
yeah.
I'm like, I just rather do it in the afternoon. And it gives me that little like extra kind of energy that you need in the afternoon sometimes, that boost.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that the biggest thing, I guess, all of this podcast is about, just to really wrap it up, is noticing what the preconceived notions that you have are about this. What noticing the preconceived notions that you have about this work, or about honestly any work that you're doing on yourselves. We have so many ideas of what it's supposed to look like, what it should be, how we should respond, how we should act, all of these different things. And so that's where our brain that's where our brain gets in our own way, right? And we're all used to being this. If you're listening to these podcasts, you probably have felt that before, where your own brain gets in your way and you're like, why is this happening? And that's what it is. It's we have these ideas, we have these notions, and the brain always wants to confirm what it believes to be true.
Yep.
So if it thinks it has to look a certain way, if it thinks it has to be a certain time of day with a certain equipment, with a certain type of space, with a certain order that we're doing that exercise and whatever, and you don't have that, it's going to be like, peace out. I don't like this. This does not align with what I believe, right? Or what I think I need. And
Yeah.
so removing any preconceived notions of what it's supposed to look like, feel like, what you're supposed to think about it, what anything's going to happen before or after it. That is a really important step in noticing how you start to shift your mindset after you start to remove those preconceived notions, because they're pretty big and they can definitely get in the way. But yeah,
Oh,
I mean, this is really just to encourage everybody to just get on the floor.
yeah. And on that note, is so much of what we do it in the cortex is to allow you to be a human, allow you to have
Hmm.
feelings and emotions, and allow you
Hmm.
to just know that you're not perfect and all of society's expectations
Yes.
that have been put on you. There's a program running underneath all that. And we get you just to look at it and say, is it serving you? So, this is the first step. You
Yeah.
have to step into noticing. You have to start seeing, how do I feel with
Hmm.
this? How do I feel with that? So you can start to find your alignment and start to figure out what is your magic formula to feeling the best version of you. So, first step,
Exactly.
tune in, start noticing, how do I feel before I just did my brain work? How do I feel afterwards? How am I noticing my friendships? How am I noticing all the different little nuances in your day to day life? And just take notice, like take inventory and just take it to your journal. That's what we always love for you to do. Take it to your journal, take it to the accountability group that we have, and just
Hmm.
start sharing, like, wow, I just had a breakthrough moment of like, holy cow. And Paloma have these all the time. The breakthroughs
All the
that we
time.
experience daily is unreal. It's because
Yeah.
we're master noticers. We're master, like,
Yes.
I would say that
Really.
we are self-diagnosed master self-awareness, like, creators in this world, because
People, yeah, for sure.
have literally just been in this world, but there's no judgment to it. It's more
No.
like, when I do it now, I don't get upset with
Curiosity.
myself. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
curious, and it's such a cortex experience of like, wow, I'm so interested to know that. And then people give me feedback. I'm like, thank you. Like, literally, thank
Hmm.
you. I used to feel so much criticism when I got
Oh,
feedback.
totally.
Oh, I'm so broken. There's something wrong with me. So we're here to tell
Hmm.
you there's nothing wrong with you. You are a beautiful human, and there's so much more growth to have,
Yeah.
and to experience. So continue doing your brain work. If you're not yet doing your brain work, we'd love to give you more support. So if you want to get on a 15-minute call, that is an option for you. We have links all over our social media to hop into that.
Hmm.
It's totally free. We also have an amazing course that'll walk you through the basics of what is brain reorganization, and it's
Hmm.
$10, 997, and it
Hmm.
gives you just all the foundation of understanding, what is this? And if you have a label, you don't have a label, basically, if you're human, you're going to experience the changes, because we have yet
Yeah.
to experience a human that is literally like Jesus walking through this planet. There's no such thing. Like, we have so much within us that we can grow, all of us. And so if that sounds like it's resonating with you, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us at hello@inthecortex.com. If you're currently a member and you're learning something new, please drop that into our ITC accountability group on WhatsApp. Go to the Facebook group, or you can just, send us love at hello@inthecortex too. All right, I'm going to wrap us up. This is my first time wrapping us up, but it feels just so right. So again, our website is inthecortex.com, and you can find us on all of our social media channels. So Instagram is _US. Our TikTok is _the_cortex. Our Facebook is in the cortex US. Yeah, okay, got it. And then you can always reach us at hello@inthecortex.com. And it's Paloma and I behind the scenes answering all of your emails, text, DMs, whatever you want to call it. So keep them coming, because we love talking about this more than anything in the world. And we have a promo code, if you didn't know, for $10 off your first payment. And the promo code is Brainiac, and you can apply that for your first payment. So join us for our amazing ITC bundle, which is $47 a month for 12 months. When you finish paying that, you have lifetime access. And you get two other programs with that. You get our sleep course and you get our primitive reflex assessment course, which is two other amazing things to add to your toolbox. It's a lot of amazing, we know, but pretty
Yeah,
amazing when you reorganize your brain. So join us.
exactly.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye.